Well, hello everybody. I am coming at you here from my office up at on campus. So I hope you come by to see me in person sometime if you can in the business technology. 113 is my office. But hope you're enjoying e-commerce materials so far. I know the chapters are kind of long, but chapter 2 was really fun as I reviewed it as well because it goes over kind of all the things I lived through as the different milestones of the internet happen. So I just want to go over a few key aspects of that chapter with you and then let you dig in deeper yourself. So these are some of the things that we're going to cover. And I put page numbers out there. I hope my page numbers match yours. If they don't, somebody tell me and I'll stop putting page numbers out there. But there's that timeline that kind of goes through all the milestones. And back in 1989 was when we finally got HTML and the World Wide Web was set up. And then we got that first graphic web browser in 1993, Mosaic. Yes, I had that. But before that, you didn't have a graphical web browser. You had just to type commands, and I remember doing that too. Instead of having like a web address or one central place you could go, you had to get the phone numbers for different places that you wanted to call up and contact and message boards and things like that. And so I can remember well doing that. And then especially for our class, this 1994, that's a big year. That's when e-commerce begins, or when they consider it beginning, because that's when the advertising started happening. 2007, yes, I got my first iPhone. Actually got it on a grant from my university. Should have saved it. Probably worth something now, but traded it in, of course, for the next version. So there's that. I will say, backing up a little bit about the web, and when you started using it for business, long before the modern applications, when it first started taking off there in 94, I founded a nonprofit group in 95, the Sign Music Foundation. And I don't remember if it was exactly that year or it was a year later, but I was all excited about this new fangled thing, the web, that I could get out information about the organization. And just a fun fact, if you would believe it or not, I used to I could change the text. I had a special editor. I could change the text on a web page, but I couldn't add any images for the site. And at that time, they actually had a person working at the Fort Worth Star-Telegram that would add a photo for you. And so I would literally mail, like in the mail, my photos from Sign Choir performances. And you could only do, a few. I would send him like 2 or 3, and they're like, please put these up. And he would do it, and for other organizations as well. And so it's kind of hard to believe looking back on it, but that's what you used to have to do. So really glad things progressed from there. Let's see, trying to look at my notes here and other things that I wanted to tell you. So the Internet of Things, 2013, that's all the kind of interconnected items. It's been really fun. Like my vacuum, Roomba, is connected to the internet and can talk, and other people who are probably wealthier than me have like refrigerators that can connect and talk with them, and all sorts of things that we can control, that it's not a computer, but it's something that's connected to the internet. And I don't know about y'all, but I have my Amazon Echo Alexa, in all my rooms, and controls the lights and all sorts of things. And so that's another example. When you start thinking about the watches, and you can come up with all of those yourself, but I think that's been really exciting to see everything, just kind of be able to connect like that. Let's see. So moving on to just some kind of concepts to know, the TCP/IP, that's the protocol for packet switching. And there's a lot of information in your book about that. I was a programmer for a long time, and so some of these things I can remember more in depth was, just this to make it kind of simplified, the idea is that when information is sent across the web, the internet, it's broken up into all these, ones and zeros, binary, and it's put in little packets, and then it's reassembled at the other end. And so before this protocol came out, there wasn't like a uniform way to do that. So that's why that's really important. It allowed, just like, let's say if you go to my house and you want to plug in something into an outlet, and then you go to someone else's house and plug it in, it works because there's a protocol that those all act similar or hopefully the same. So that's what that's why the importance of that. Domain names. So you can buy a domain name, of course, whatever you want for yours. My rescue groups was casadecritters.org. You can buy those, and the ending, it's supposed to kind of symbolize what that, kind of the usage for that, whether it's an organization or a business or others, and you can see that it's out there on a chart as well for you. But one thing that sometimes people don't know is that you can buy ones that don't really match up. So like I could have bought casadecritters.com, even though it wasn't a business, it was a .org organization. So sometimes just be savvy about that, that just because someplace has a .org, they're not necessarily nonprofit. So take a look at those. And then you can also see the internet speeds and just the different types of connections, and there as well. Hopefully most of you have high-speed internet. When I lived in Kentucky, I was out in a very rural area, and I couldn't get the high-speed internet, and oh my goodness, it was crazy. It would take me about 20 minutes to download a 1-hour TV show. I definitely couldn't stream it. I had to download it, and it would still take that long. So you can take a look at that chart as well. All right, and then we will keep going here. So just some more terms. The hypertext markup language is kind of, you've probably seen that. That's the background programming script that makes the web pages appear. If you haven't seen it, you can always just go out to a web page and view that HTML. And then CSS is the cascading style sheets. And a lot of times, and I've taught web design for a long time, and I was also, when I did programming, I also worked for the Center for Media Production at UNT, and we did a lot of dynamic database controlled websites, and of course that'll come into a big play here later in the semester as we get to talk about the tools. But part of that was, I was writing those the scripting, and essentially what it is the cascading style sheet kind of gives the overall theme and how different aspects will all work for that page. So like if I have a code for, I want all the headers to be green size 14. Well, then I can put that header label in the HTML, and every time it sees it, it will know to go ahead and make that green size 14. Instead of me actually having to put green 14 all throughout the web page, because then if I want to change it later to be blue 14, I only have to change it one place in that cascading style sheet, and it will filter, throughout. So that's kind of the importance of that. Web browsers, I'm sure you are very familiar with those. You're using them all the time. Those are some examples, Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer. And then there's search engines, of course, with Google being the most famous, but there's lots of different ones that you can try and see. It's kind of interesting sometimes to see the different results that you get back. You probably also already know about downloading versus streaming, where downloading, you actually get the content on your local machine, whereas streaming is going to be a lot it's going to be a lot better because it doesn't have to download that whole thing. You can watch it as it goes. And I'm sure with all of the Disney Plus and Paramount Plus and all of the different streaming networks, you are very familiar with that. Some popular options over the years and still is doing podcasts, and a lot of times that's with audio, but you can also have video casts. blogs, you've seen those, wikis. I used to, another fun fact, one of the first couple years that I taught some hybrid online courses, there was no learning management system. So like right now you're using Brightspace, and you may also have heard of ones like Canvas, Blackboard. Those are learning management software where all of your, all your stuff is located, all the content and the grades and all that. Well, those didn't used to exist. And so I would actually create the courses on wiki spaces for my students. And obviously there's lots of other uses for wikis, but that's what I used to do at the beginning of kind of distance ed. And in social networking, we're all familiar with Facebook and Instagram and all of that good stuff. Now, for the fun stuff, virtual reality and augmented reality, that has been the focus of my research. And I won't go into it a lot, but virtual reality, is kind of that immersive effect you've seen where you put on the goggles and you have the whole virtual world all around you. I've done some things with the cardboard Google Glass, well, the cardboard glasses, but I've also done stuff with the Google Glass, and I think I shared some of that in my introduction video for you. But what I did most of the time was focus on augmented reality, and that's where you're kind of overlaying the real world with some additional digital information. And I use this a lot for deaf children, where they would see something, and I'm going to include a video in the content pages just so you can kind of see if you want to, where, for example, a deaf student would open up a book and they would, a children's book or something, but then they had a QR code they could scan, and that would give them the augmented with the sign language and everything. And I used an app also called Erasma that would do this, and that's what you'll see in the video. So some really cool things with virtual and augmented reality. And of course, all of the mobile app stuff that has just taken off, and just amazing in such a short amount of time. And so then I just wanted to end right quick with this final slide on your book opens with information about rural India and how a lot of people don't have internet access, and the steps that they're trying to take, and just kind of fresh ideas and things to be able to provide that. And one of them, which I thought was really cool, I hadn't heard about that before reading it in your book, was this Project Loom, where Google was sending up all these balloons to kind of create that infrastructure. And I was part of a project called, I just used it, I wasn't part of creating it, but if you remember right, they used to have this $100 laptop initiative. They were the XO laptops for education. And it's a long story. I'm going to give you an article that you can read if you want to optionally. But what they were trying to do is to put these in third world countries and developing countries, and have them, the laptops would create a mesh network. And so they would basically talk to each other. And so they would scatter them all out in these rural areas. But if they were close enough, they didn't have to be close enough to like a central place. They just had to be close enough to each other to be able to bounce this network off of. And then they also had of course, the fun part for the news and everything was they had these cranks, so that you didn't even need electricity. You could crank them. I don't think the cranks worked as well practically as they did in the fun media advertising, because they would break and all sorts of things. And so we did get to order a couple for a grant project that we were doing, because I was trying to work with some deaf schools in those areas. They never even sent us the crank. They just sent us a power cord. But they really have a lot of potential, and they were trying to solve the same kind of issue with getting internet to people that didn't have access. So just something interesting if you want to read about. It was fun. I don't think it took off as much as they had hoped, but nevertheless, it was something interesting to be a part of. So I think that's about 15 minutes. That's probably long enough for a little mini key point lecture here from your book. I hope you enjoy the chapter and have a great week. Bye-bye.